We're going live.
No. We'll do it live.
Okay.
This is the Come On Man podcast. And here's your host, Paul Bauer.
What's up, guys? It's Wednesday morning, and you know what that means. It's a new episode served hot and fresh, just like my coffee here. Tastes good. Tastes better in one of these mugs, guys. You know what the deal is. Treat yourself. Get you one. Merch.comeonmanpod.com. All right, before we get too far into this today, I want to show you guys this. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I posted it on social media. But check this out. Check this bad boy out. Yeah. Would you look at that? That's pretty. That right there is the real world championship, guys. The real world championship. You guys may have heard of a guy named Roman Reigns, maybe Seth Rollins. Pretenders. They're all pretenders, baby. They're all pretenders. This is the real world championship. The king daddy of them all, baby. And I'm going to be defending this against Glenn Lawrence at SummerSlam. That's right. That son of a bitch. He thinks he's going to take this belt from me. Out of my cold, dead hands. I'll throw that son of a bitch right off of the cage into a damn table. Tell you what. I'll tell you what. Anyway, smash that like button for the new World Manosphere Championship. You guys are like, oh, that's funny. That's funny. I ordered that belt. It's a real belt. It's coming. The way I look at it is if a guy can wear a red hat and proclaim himself the president of the Manosphere, then why can't I be the undisputed world Manosphere champion? Why can't I? Okay. It's all make-believe. It's all make-believe anyway. All right. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about being unshakable during a woman's SHISH tests. And make no mistake about it, all women test men, either consciously or subconsciously. All right. And men test each other too, by the way. We often test other men by busting on them, teasing them, stuff like that. The idea is very similar, right? Men want to know that they could trust you. And how do they do that? By seeing if you can handle their teasing remarks, to see how you react, right? Are you reactive? Or do you just playfully like whatever, you know? It's like you don't take anything seriously, right? All right. It's very similar for women. Women will throw little barbs and jabs at you to see if you're the man who is in control of his emotions, or if you let your emotions control you. Which is it? Are you someone that lets their emotions control them, or do you control your own emotions? Think about that for a minute. I used to be a guy, I used to have a really bad temper. Really bad temper. I would fly off the handle, you know. My ex-wife would say, "You've got anger issues. You've got anger issues." And I did have anger issues, you know, but damn it, damn it, you know, you don't take so much. You can only take so much. No, but if you learn the things that I talk about today, you could be in better control of it, because when you're aware of processes to help you cope with that kind of stuff, you're more aware of your reaction to it and how you're going to respond. And when you're more aware of it, you're sort of stepping outside of your emotions for a minute, and that lets you be more rational. So we'll get into that. But you know, largely being in control of your emotions is a part of having frame. It's not all of it, but it's a part of it. It's also a part of having a dominant masculine presence, as my friend Thor says. In fact, he has a new book coming out this summer. Actually, I think he actually told me last night it's actually going to be available in the next couple of weeks. It's coming up, but he's let me listen to it ahead of time. Highly recommend it. And man, you'll never be able to think of the phrase dominant masculine presence without thinking of Thor after reading this book. I'll just say that it's a really good book. But the reason why I wanted to do this episode, and maybe you could probably guess based on the thumbnail, but there's been a lot of clips lately, right? Crapping on dudes in the red pill space, or who I'd say are red pill adjacent, at least, right? We all know the MLD stuff. I've already talked about that. I was on Rudy's podcast last week about that. But this clip, I want to show this one here. This is the clip from Justin Waller. He was on the Whatever podcast, also made the rounds lately. And I believe this chick is Lila Rose. Anyway, she starts grilling him. And this particular clip went viral because of how Justin handled the situation. So let's look at that, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Ask you one more question.
Fire away, honey.
Okay. If you have only one place in your heart for one woman, or you want to have one woman in your heart, I think you said, why don't you just commit to one and choose to be faithful to her?
I'm just not wired that way. I spent my whole 20s trying to fix myself. Thought something was wrong with me.
You're a man of self-control. You work out, you do business.
Yeah.
You can possess your own power and direct it the way you want to direct it.
It's just not how I am. It's not how I am.
You think that might be a limited mindset?
I think it's none of your business, but I don't want you to think I'm triggered by you. I'm not.
Okay.
I saw somebody say that, and I think that's interesting. I think you're annoying, but I'm not triggered. You know what I'm saying? No, you are. You're annoying in like this goody two-shoes type way, and that's fine. I'm going to live my life on my terms, unapologetically, like truly. So you can ask me this 85 different ways. At the end of the day, I'm going to walk out of here the same man.
All right. Now, let me ask you guys, sound off in the chat. Let me guys know what you think. But do you think he handled that well? Do you think he handled that okay? We'll get into that today. Before we do, let's do some housekeeping, though. You guys know the drill. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit those notifications if you haven't done so already. Sound off in the live chat. If you guys are watching live right now, that helps the show go by quicker. I have it set in subscriber only mode, so you have to subscribe to be able to sound off in the live chat, but please do. I go live every Wednesday and Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So I try to bring a lot of value to the space. So subscribing would be good for you. And then if you're watching on the replay, drop a comment below your favorite emoji. It doesn't really matter. Follow me on social media. The links are in the description. Be sure to send super chats, guys. Super chats actually support the show probably more than anything else. And you can send one for as little as $1. You can even send a super sticker. Like if you don't have anything slick to say, just send a super sticker. That's fine too. Speaking of stickers, get on the email list, list.comeonmanpod.com. I'll send you some free stickers for your troubles. If you guys have signed up for the list and you haven't received an email from me, like DM me on Instagram, because a lot of the times MailChimp's emails get stuck at people's spam filters and whatever, but I want to make sure you guys are getting your stickers. Okay. And then if you guys like those designs, they're available as merch as well. You know, hoodies, tank tops, hats, coffee mugs. Coffee tastes better in the mugs. You can get that all at merch.comeonmanpod.com. Check out my practical law of attraction course, loa.comeonmanpod.com. It's a mindset course. Once you get your mind right, everything else seems to fall into place. It's kind of miraculous that way, but it's not magic. And then finally, get on the Patreon, guys. Patreon.com/comeonmanpod. You can join for as little as $10. One of the things that I'm offering for the for tier 1 subscribers and any subscriber, actually, but like tier 2 and tier 3 are more for people that want, coaching of some kind, right? But as a value add for guys that just want to join tier 1 to support the podcast, I'm going to start hosting monthly meetups. So starting June 22nd, June 22nd is the first one. We're going to do a virtual happy hour hangout. And it's just dudes getting together, talk about guy stuff. We don't have to talk about women if you don't want. We can talk about work. We can talk about sports cars, whatever. It's guy stuff, right? No women. Just guys being guys. We have to worry about offending people and stuff like that. And then, a lot of guys they don't have a good group of male friends that they can go to with their problems, right? They end up dumping everything on their woman, and then their women lose attraction, then leave them. And then they're like, what happened? Well, you don't have a good group of dudes to go to. So this is a great place that you can meet up with like-minded guys, bring your stuff to the group. That way you can save your woman for the fun stuff. Let me play a commercial for that, and then we'll get into the topic at hand today. Are you tired of holding back your thoughts and opinions? Ready to let loose with like-minded men? Introducing the ultimate monthly video-based happy hour for men. Join us for an exclusive, unfiltered experience where you can talk about women, cars, movies, and anything else on your mind. Best of all, it's not recorded and there's no censorship. You can freely speak your mind without any worries. All you have to do is join my Patreon at tier number 1, and you'll gain access to this one-of-a-kind gathering. Visit patreon.com/comeonmanpod. That's patreon.com/comeonmanpod. Or click the link in the description. It's like the good old days when men would get together and talk about man stuff without being bothered by women. Sometimes guys just need a good group of men to hang out with. It's good for our mental health. Don't miss out on the camaraderie and conversation. Join us today and let your voice be heard. Visit my Patreon page and sign up now. Cheers to freedom of speech and great company. All right, guys. So be sure to sign up for that. It's only $10. You know, look at it like it's the cover charge for your favorite club. So, all right, we've got Glenn. Glenn says he's going to take me down, and he's calling me a candy ass. Can you believe that guy? Can you believe that guy? You're never going to take this championship from me. You're never going to do it. You know, in your dreams, pal. In your dreams. Nurse chick, too sweet. Too sweet. All right, we've got let's see here. So Ted says Jay Waller kept his steady and held frame with a girl who was grilling him. Okay. Let's see here. Baker says Jay Waller's case is a common one on the sphere. Guys live spitting, loving tradition, but love bragging about fucking multiple girls. Or yeah, we're past 8 minutes. Maybe go for a Muslim pill, but stop saying being trad for clout. Okay. All right. Let's see. Jim says 52 years old, but really learning a lot. Thanks, guys. Yeah. Oh, my man Nathan sent super chat. He actually sent 2 of these, so he gets this one.
I was just gonna say it. This guy fucks. Am I right?
Yeah, this guy fucks. And then we got let's see here. We got Rudy sent a super chat too. Rudy, you get this one, man. You get
Who's the master?
You guys are watching on Instagram right now. You can't hear these cool sound effects. All right. What's this one say? Please, women, I am closed-minded. Stop trying to seduce me. Stop. I need a sticker to put on my forehead. Closed-minded. All right. Jose says, acknowledge the tribal chief. Yeah, the tribal chief's just a pretender, bro. There's only one real world champion. All right. Okay. All that being said, let's get into this today. Where are we at? Let's look at that clip again. Okay, let's watch this clip one more time here.
Fire away, honey.
Okay. If you have only one place in your heart for one woman, or you want to have one woman in your heart, I think you said, why don't you just commit to one and choose to be faithful to her?
I'm just not wired that way. I spent my whole 20s trying to fix myself. Thought something was
You're a man
wrong
of
with me.
self-control. You work out, you do business.
Yeah.
You can possess your own power and direct it the way you want to direct it.
It's just not how I am. It's not how I am.
You think that might be a limited mindset?
I think it's none of your business, but I don't want you to think I'm triggered by you. I'm not.
Okay.
I saw somebody say that, and I think that's interesting. I think you're annoying, but I'm not triggered. You know what I'm saying? No, you are. You're annoying in like this goody two-shoes type way, and that's fine. I'm going to live my life on my terms, unapologetically, like truly. So you can ask me this 85 different ways. At the end of the day, I'm going to walk out of here the same man.
So, okay, Mr. Y totally says he failed to agree and amplify. Okay. Yeah. So I would say he handled it okay. You know, pretty good. He didn't raise his voice or anything. He didn't walk off the show. Right. He didn't really get super upset, but I do think he could have handled it better. Right. Now, that being said, under the circumstance, when like a lot of people around, like I'd like to think that I could have handled it better, but I don't know if I could, right? Under that kind of pressure in the moment, I think he handled it all right. He handled it pretty good, but he could have handled it better, right? Yes, exactly. But this is where I'm going with this. He acknowledged she got under his skin and did some deering there. Yes, he started explaining himself. He started rationalizing why he does what he does. None of that's good. None of that's necessarily attractive behavior. You could clearly see that she did get under his skin because as soon as he says, "I find you annoying," right? That you notice like her smirk, and then all the other women around the table smirked at that moment because they knew right then they got him. I got you, right? Yep. Yeah, he said he did sound triggered. How would you have handled it? Oh, we'll get into that today, Rudy. We'll get into that today. So, like I said, he was very calm, but he could have handled it better, I think. Yeah, he kind of trapped himself, called himself self-controlled on the hustle side, but couldn't help himself on the chicks. Just say, girls want to bang me too. It's just a side hustle for me. Yeah. So, but yeah, he said that, he said they thought he was triggered, and there was probably a reason why they thought that, right? Body language, for instance. Have you seen the thumbnail pic for this video, right? He looked like a downtrodden husband who was just sick of his wife nagging him, right? That kind of body language says that they're getting to him. Okay. And you don't look like that if you're not bothered, right? He also straight up told her that he thought she was annoying. And then she giggled because, she knew that she was getting under her skin. Okay. And that's why that video went viral. That's why that video went viral, right? He should have said, respect my authority and don't talk to me like that. Like MLD. Oh man. We talked about that. Was it right after the MLD incident happened, where I was like, you can't go to a panel of women and be like, don't talk to me that way, because they don't respect you. Right. It just that sort of checking a bitch doesn't work in a situation like that. Yeah. So anyways, so why not just unleash on these women and hold them accountable, right, guys? Just, okay, you know what? Let me put you in your place, bitch. That's not good either, right? One, you're not really holding anybody accountable, right? You just look like someone who isn't in control of their emotions when you do that, especially on a live show like this, right? And then two, it'll be used against you. So I'm reading this book right now. You guys may have heard of it. All right. Really great book. Ryan has a section. I blocked it off here because it's actually really good. He talks about when you're in a fight with a woman, particularly like your girlfriend or your wife. He says, it's like she's trying to mentally and emotionally try to switch the focus away from her bad behavior and onto your response, right? It's like a Catholic going to confession. Sometimes it's about avoiding guilt or shame. So by making you mad, she has something to work with besides her own behavior and subsequent guilt. Now it's not about what she did, but about your anger, right? Playing your cards close to your chest by giving a steady oak-like response avoids all of that. Gives her nothing to work with, no way to shift focus, and will allow you to act unimpeded in your own best interest. So basically, what he's saying is when a woman, if you're arguing with a woman, right, and you lose your emotional control, now this is a big way that women manipulate men. Okay. And women, I don't think they consciously do it. This is just something this is one of their tools, right? Tools in their toolbox. And what they'll do is, instead of focusing on their bad behavior, now they'll shift the focus to, well, I don't like your tone, or you know what? You're getting really mad right now and you have no control of your anger. And it all of a sudden the shift is now on how you're reacting. Right. And now you're the bad person because you're reacting wrong. Not because and all of a sudden the shift's away from her bad behavior. Right. So she now uses your emotional response against you. It's like emotional judo. Right. You guys ever done judo? Like people throw their momentum at you and you use their momentum against them and just keep them going until they fall on the floor. Aikido's like that too, right? Same thing. Women are very good at that, right? So if you can be a little more in control of your emotions and your emotional reactions, she can't do that to you. She can't use your momentum against you because you're not giving her any momentum, right? Yeah. it always comes down to a man's response in any given situation. All right. So, but yeah, because a woman will do this. This is one of the reasons why like arguing with women is really pointless, right? Have you ever heard the expression like there, even if you win against a woman in an argument, like you still don't win, right? It's because they don't fight fair. They don't fight fair when it comes to arguing. So like arguing with women is really largely stupid. It's a monumental waste of your time. So this is where being in control of your emotions is paramount. And many of you guys that follow the show, hey, no, don't get me canceled, bro. Okay. Many of you have read How to Be a 3% Man, right? And if you haven't, you should read it. It's a good book. Corey talks about how you have to be centered. Now, the problem with the book is that he doesn't really tell you how to be centered, right? But he does give you an analogy of what it is and explains why it's important, right? So the way he describes it is with an analogy of being a boat in the ocean. All right. And he says that women's emotions are the ocean. Okay. Women, like it can be calm and cool 1 minute and then like crashing waves like the next minute. Like you never can tell. Right. And when a woman's having like a strong emotional response, it's very much like the waves crashing on the boat trying to capsize you. Okay. And that's what shit tests really are, right? It's a woman, it's her emotional response trying to capsize her boat in the ocean. Okay. The thing is, if she capsizes you, it's almost impossible to get your boat upright again, especially in the middle of the ocean, right? You're in the middle of the ocean. If you're, let's think it's a real boat for a minute. If your boat gets capsized in the middle of the ocean, you can't get that thing upright again. You're done. You have to wait to be rescued. Okay. So if a woman capsizes you, then you can't get the boat upright again. And even if you did, she won't ever trust you to captain that boat again. She won't trust you anymore. Right? So women feel more safe and secure in a relationship when they know that their emotions don't affect you. Okay. That's the importance of learning sort of emotional control and how to handle shit tests. That's why when you're on the dating circuit, right, a lot of emphasis in the pickup community is about handling shit tests because women need to know that they can't get a rise out of you. And once they know that, they'll feel more safe and secure around you. Okay. And they all test you, either consciously or subconsciously. So this means that you have to be unshakable, basically, right? This might be a short episode today. Dr. Glover in, I think it's Dating Essentials for Men. He says it really well too, right? He says that women don't want you to climb on her emotional roller coaster. She needs to know that one of you has your feet on the ground. All right. That's your job as a man in the relationship. She wants you to be her rock. That's why there's a lot of emphasis in the men's red pill space that you don't bring your problems to your woman, right? You don't use her like an emotional tampon because women will slowly lose attraction for you over time when you do that. Now, a lot of guys are like, well, you should be able to be vulnerable with a woman. You should be able to bring her your problems and stuff like that. It's not a good idea. And I would say that if you do ever bring your problem to your woman, right? Because you can't keep it from completely, especially if you're, in a long-term committed relationship. But what you want to do is if you bring a problem to your girl, you want to put a positive spin on it, let her know that you have everything under control. So like if I ever find myself slipping, right, with Nurse Chick and I start telling her about like how stressful my day was or whatever, and I'm like, oh shit, a switch goes in my head because I'm like ultra aware of this stuff now, right? That's one of the benefits of having a podcast is it's all this kind of stuff's on your forefront of your mind, so you're always thinking about it. So if I find myself slipping and telling her about how shitty my day is, I try to like pivot and then be like, I got it under control. I got a plan for this. Right. Because women like, they will care to a point. They will care to a point, but they want to know that you got shit handled, and they don't want to be your rock. It doesn't work that way. They want you to be their rock. Yeah, Luis says he should have just done a bit of fogging there and steered the conversation back into his frame. Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing. That's a great point. You know, the moment that he lets her know that it's bothering him, that he's like trying to explain himself, like, hey, you know, I know who I am, and I've just, you know, I've just tried to work on myself and blah, blah, you know, right now he's explaining. Now he's in her frame. Now he's trying to justify himself to her. Now he's in her frame, right? And you always got to pay attention to whose frame you're working in. And largely, you want to try to be in your frame as much as possible. But in any interaction, not just with women, but in any interaction, right? Someone's entering someone else's frame. Sometimes it's not bad to enter someone else's frame, right? It's not always bad, but when you're dealing with women, it behooves you to stay in your own frame, right? Not fall into their frame, right? Let's go back to Ryan's book for a minute. Ryan also has a section. So he mentioned an oak-like response, but he goes on further. If you go a little bit further in the book, and he explains what he means by oak. Okay. Now, like, you might hear it go, yeah, you know, oak, like oaks are strong or whatever. But he specifically says oak for a reason, because he said there was a University of Arizona study on trees. Right? On trees growing in captivity. And the purpose of his explanation of this is that these tests that women do to us, a lot of guys try to avoid them. A lot of guys are like, but I want my peace. And, you know, if a woman tests me, I'm going to next her. But you got to realize that they all do it. And largely you should welcome it, because it makes us better men. Right? It makes us better men when you can handle this sort of thing. So going to Ryan's story in his book about oaks, the University of Arizona did a study where they tried to grow trees in a biodome, right? And what they found was that in captivity, or in a perfect situation, no wind, no outside interference or whatever, these trees would grow fast and they would grow taller. And they were like, oh, this is great. This is great. You know, like, we can grow trees, you know, sustainability and whatever, and, you know, save the planet. But what they found was that without wind, right? Without wind pushing on the trees as they grow and having that adversity, that the wood itself of these trees, even though they grew taller, was trash, right? You couldn't build with it. It was very brittle. They weren't strong. They would fall down, right? It wasn't strong enough, because it turns out that trees need that wind resistance. They need that struggle to make stronger wood. That wind pushing on a tree causes it to, you know, grow little fibers that makes it stronger. Okay. So same thing with women, right? Women are our wind blowing on us, and it makes us stronger men. Women actually make us better men. It's really weird, right? Right. One of the things I found on this journey of learning how to better understand women and get better with women is that all the qualities that you need to, you know, attract women makes you a better man in general, right? Like, those damn women, they make us better people. But yeah, so Ryan talks about oaks and how, you know, women's emotions and those shit tests are a lot like the wind, you know, just like in Corey's story, women are the ocean, right? So Ryan says that women are women's emotions and shit tests are the wind, and Corey says that they're the ocean. It's the same thing, right? Same thing. You get the point. Yes, just like the damn video already, please. Let's do this. If you guys haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, hit those notifications. And sound off in the chat. All right. So, man, yeah, this probably is going to be a short episode unless you guys start sounding off in the chat more. So how do we stay unaffected by women and their shit tests, right? It's really easy to say, right? It's it's not that easy to do unless you practice it a lot, right? It's really easy to look at Justin Waller from the outside and be like, and, sort of, Sunday quarterback, armchair quarterback, the situation. But until you've like been in some shit tests and practice some of the stuff, you don't know how you're going to respond, right? One of the best things about the dating circuit, learning how to handle this sort of thing, is you get plenty of practice in handling shit tests for women. But what I like to do is I treat everything a woman does, like it's a shit test, right? Even if they're being cool with me, treat it like a shit test. I treat literally everything like a shit test. I assume everything a woman's doing is a shit test, right? It's kind of like the Hulk, right? In the Avengers, where he's like, well, that's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry, right? That's my secret, boys. Everything's a shit test. My 3% brother, Ryan, he says it really well, right? It's only a test when you don't pass it anyway. Right? If you pass a shit test, it was like women don't like, especially if a woman's doing it subconsciously, then like it wasn't a test for her. But as soon as you fail it, she knows immediately that you failed, right? Yes. Women are always going to test you. These guys going into these pods should know that. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, especially. So, speaking of Ryan the other day, I love Ryan too. I don't know if he's going to watch this or anything, but the other day he sends me a message where he was out with a girl, and the girl sort of like ran into some of her friends at this bar and started hanging out with them. And like she went upstairs and started hanging out with them. And so he just he tried to act indifferent for it for a little while, and then eventually got sick of it and was just like, all right, peace out. I'm going to bounce. Right. Which is very similar. There's a story in Corey Wayne's book about how he went to a party to hang out with this chick, and she basically blew him off all night. And Corey's just like, peace out. I'm leaving. And it turns out like him leaving caused that girl's attraction level to go up, because she was like, oh, this guy's different. He didn't hang around like a puppy dog. Like he was just like, hey, peace out, and left. And showed her strength. So he basically did the same thing. Now, the difference here is she was really pissed at him the next morning and sent him like a text message about it. And Ryan's like, he sent me the text exchange. And I was like, he was sort of like apologizing for it and trying to justify why he did it and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, no, dude, you don't do that. That's the deering, right? Which we'll talk about here. You don't want to deer in a situation like that, because when you start deering, now you're putting her at a level above you. And now you got to you're trying to justify your actions to this chick. And, hypergamy is a real thing, right? Like hypergamy, like women want a guy that they perceive is of higher value than them, higher status. But if you're justifying yourself to her, that puts her at a higher status than you. Do you see what I'm saying? So you don't want to deer. You don't want to apologize for stuff like that. You just want to own it. You sort of want to own it. And if she's mad at you, you can acknowledge it with a little bit of flogging, but don't apologize for it. And so that's what I told him to do. I was like, well, you don't apologize for this, but acknowledge her emotions towards it and be like, yeah, I got to understand why you're upset. Yeah, I hear you, but don't apologize for it. And because he was asking me if there's any way to salvage it. So I told him to do that. And then he completely disregarded it, sent her this whole tweet, sort of justifying it. And I was just like, all right, man, we'll see where this goes. And, she basically ghosted him after that. So, yeah, you know what I mean? Oh, Luis, $5 for the brotherhood. Thanks, man. Let's see. You get this.
I was just going to say it. This guy fucks. Am I right?
That's right. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Her. You're meansies. Me? Precisely. That's right. Just own that shit. All right. So how do we handle these shit tests? Rudy asked me how I would have handled it. So these are some ways that I would have handled the situation, right? So I've got a whole list here. Number one here, I just finished this book. Outstanding book. It's called When I Say No, I Feel Guilty. It's one of the required reading books in the Married Red Pill, right? It's one of the sidebar books. Highly recommend this book. 99% of that book talks about how to handle this type of shit, right? Because a lot of that type of language, when she was saying, trying to ask him, like, why are you doing it this way? Why, you should do it this way and whatever. Don't you think that's a self-limiting belief and all that kind of stuff, right? That's her manipulating him, trying to manipulate him into feeling guilty and feeling shame for doing things his way. Okay. And so to handle that kind of manipulation, you want to use a combination of what's called fogging. And in the book, they talk about fogging, negative assertion, negative inquiry, self-disclosure, workable compromise, etc. And they just beat it into you in this whole book, right? They just give you all these different interactions where people are trying to manipulate a certain situation. And they give they have like one person talking, the manipulator, and then the other person, the assertive communicator. And after the assertive communicator is done talking, they explain like the type of tools they used in that interaction. So they're always like fogging and negative assertion, fogging and negative inquiry, right? But fogging, Luis mentioned it a little bit earlier, right? Fogging would have been really good in this situation, right? And what fogging is you basically take what someone's saying at you, okay, and you try to identify any truth in that statement, and you're just responding to the statement that they're saying, right? And you're not necessarily you're sort of agreeing. It's almost like agreeing and amplifying a little bit. And the thing is, it's like, man, it's like when someone calls you a name, like you're a dummy stupid face, and you go, yeah, I am a dummy stupid face. Like they got nothing on you, right? Because they say that because they want a reaction. But if you're unreactive with it and you just agree with them, they're like, oh, well, yeah, I know you are, right? I learned this like when I was in junior high. I was getting in fights all the time, and my counselor's like, just agree with them. And I'm like, but I'm not. And he's like, it doesn't matter. Just agree with them. And they'll leave you alone. And because they want to get a rise out of you, that's why they do it, right? These bullies. And so that's kind of what fogging is, right? Fogging, the concept in the book, they describe it as like when you're like trying to throw a punch at fog, it never lands, right? You can't hit fog because it's unreactive. It's just sort of like, it's just there, right? Yeah. There you go. You're validating her emotions, but not qualifying to the criticism, right? So, if she's just like, don't you think that's a limited mindset? He could have said, yeah, it could be a limited mindset, right? Like if you just sort of agree, yeah, it could be a limited mindset, but I don't want to live my life that way, right? And if he just kept saying that, well, I don't want to live my life that way, that's called broken record, right? Yeah, that could be a limited mindset, but I don't want to live my life that way. And just keep saying it over and over again, right? Another thing too he could have done was a negative inquiry, right? Where she's like, well, how can you live like that? And where you have one woman, but you're sleeping with all these other women. He could have been like, he could have used fogging and be like, yeah, I can understand why you wouldn't like that happening to you, but why would that be so bad for someone else to do it? That's a negative inquiry where he's like, why would that be so bad? Why would that be so bad? Right? It puts it back on them to now qualify themselves to you kind of situation. So that's one way of doing it, right? Fogging, negative assertion, and stuff like that. Highly recommend that book. We're going to be talking about that book a little bit more on Friday. We're going to be talking about the Assertive Bill of Rights. Never dear. And, he was deering a little bit in this clip where he's like, just justifying it. Like, well, I spent my whole 20s doing this, and, I was working on myself, and that's just not how I'm wired. And that's deering, right? Deering stands for defend, explain, excuse, rationalize, right? So you never want to deer. You don't want to try to explain yourself to people. You don't want to try to excuse your actions or rationalize your actions or defend yourself, right? It puts you at a weaker level than them, all right? But you always want a LUCA. You always want a LUCA, which stands for listen, understand, clarity, and action. LUCA is a communication method that I've learned from Apex Mindset from Paul Benjamin. And the way Paul describes it, he's got lots of videos on it, so I'm not going to go into depth on the process of Luca, but do a search after this for Apex Mindset Luca, Luca, and he's got a couple of videos on it. The way he describes it is very similar to what Corey Wayne talks about in the relationship section of his book about listening and making sure you understand what is really bothering her. Okay. So instead of defending yourself, use a little bit of fogging, right? and get to the bottom of what's really bothering her. Because a lot of times when women are talking mad smack, they're not talking about what's really bothering them. You know what I mean? So you could be like, yeah, I understand that how that made you feel, and you felt this way. Let me understand. Like when I did this made you feel this way, right? Do that kind of thing. Because when women feel heard and understood, that's when the legs open, right? But you really want to get to the bottom of what's eating at her, okay? And you argue with her, trying to justify yourself and all that kind of stuff does nothing to help your case. But if you sit there and just listen to her and just sort of let her validate her feelings and emotions and stuff like that, right? It's like women are like, man, what a great communicator, right? Because they really just want their feelings validated. Oh, let's see. Wow, it's happening right now. She started arguing and I responded like if I was in a storm and I let my emotions take over. I swear this was the shortest argument ever. Wow. What do you mean by that? You just were unresponsive or did you let her have it? Like, what do you mean by that? Negative inquiry using the no-oriented question tactic straight out of Christoph style negotiation. Yeah. Also, you could dare. Dare is deflect, agree, and amplify, repeat, and exit the topic. Yeah, there you go. Ooh, where did you get that, Luis? Dare. Deflect, agree, and amplify, repeat, and exit the topic. Where'd you get that? I like that. All right. Which, getting to this, right? Agree and amplify, that's the next thing I have here, right? Agree and amplify is very similar to fogging. A good example in Waller's case would be when she said, well, you can possess your own power, right? Well, can't you possess your own power and blah, 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 right? He might have said, possess my own power. Honey, just call me a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. Right? Oh, okay. Yeah. Send me that. You have a TRP article. Okay. Sweet. Dude, guys, Luis is in the 3% Brotherhood group. He's been dropping all the old school red pill stuff lately. Gems. Just great stuff. Yeah, it's morphin time, right? Just play it like, don't take what they say seriously and amplify, right? Right? My own power, baby. I'm a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, right? It just sort of like it's a joke, one big joke. Don't take it seriously. Let's see here. She said, think that might be a limited mindset. Don't you think that might be a limited mindset? You could say, my mind is so limited. I still think the earth is flat, right? You're agreeing with what she says. Yeah. I have a limited mindset. And then you take it up a notch to absurdity, right? My mind is so limited. I still think the earth is flat. What's to say here? I don't know. Yeah. Also, you're not on the defensive when you do that, right? If you agree and amplify, you're sort of taking up a notch. You're making a big joke of whatever she's saying. You're not on the defensive when you do that. You're just trying to take what she says and turn it into a big joke, right? And when you're not defensive, that's a lot of what deering is about. And we talked about that already, right? When you're deering, you're defending yourself. Now you're putting yourself at a level below her where you're trying to qualify yourself to her. That's it's never a good position to be in. You're now in her frame, right? And you have to think about this, right? Like there's all these stupid analogies in the men's space about like lions and sheep, right? But a lion doesn't have to explain or defend himself to a sheep, does he? Right? A sheep goes up to a lion, starts questioning him. He's just like, who are you? you've got to be like unreactive like that. Okay, what did he say? I just didn't let her get my emotions worked up. I stood my ground, listened to her, and said, I can see how you can feel that way. Right? Right? And then she can't use that judo against you, right? Where she's like, oh, now it's about you're mad at me. Now you're mad at me, right? It's so funny, man. As soon as you're just like unreactive to these chicks, and you're just like, yeah, I can understand why you feel that way. Like all of a sudden it takes the wind out of their sails. They got nothing. And they tend to chill out after that. All right. Another thing that you can do is act indifferent, right? Indifference makes a difference. Now I would say that Justin tried to act a little indifferent here, right? He wasn't very like ultra emotional. He didn't raise his voice or anything. He's very calm, but you could tell he wasn't really indifferent to the situation, because he clearly was, he said, well, I find you annoying. Well, if you find someone annoying, you're not indifferent. You know what I mean? Indifference means you just don't care. You just don't care. You're just completely unreactive. You're just sitting there like this, right? They're sitting there yelling at you, and you're just like, right? Like that's that's indifference. Like you have no expression. You have no body language that shows that you're being bothered by what she's saying at all. You're just super indifferent. I had this guy on last year. He's been on the podcast a couple times. We did a panel show for like a couple months called the Fantastic Four, but and you guys may have heard of him. He goes by Black Spider Guy Advice. BSG is actually a pretty cool dude. And he was telling me the first time I had him on the podcast, he was telling me about his dad. His dad is one of those like naturals, like those natural red pillar guys. You know what I mean? Like he was born, like raised this way, raised by a good dad, right? And just has really strong frame naturally. Didn't have to learn any of the stuff from a book. And he said that when his mom starts like losing her stuff, losing her shit, right, at her dad. She's mad about whatever. And she starts complaining about stuff. Like he doesn't argue with her or anything. He just looks at her, like he says, with extreme indifference, just looks at her like, and then like sort of mentally sort of projects like, are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? Like I pay for everything. Like I take care of the world you live in, lady, and he just doesn't react, doesn't say anything, just looks at her like, like, are you done? Kind of thing. And she eventually just sort of like, fizzles out, she's going off. She's blah, 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 yelling and stuff like that. He just doesn't say anything. He just stares at her. Right. And then she just eventually like goes about her business because he's not being reactive. It's magic, right? That indifference thing can work very well, right? Not very good on a podcast. You can't just sit there and just not saying anything on a podcast, but acting indifferent in your relationship would good. Yeah, she literally just calmed down. Exactly. Shit's like magic, guys. Another thing you could do, I learned after I got more into the red pill space. Before that, like when I was out dating, the only two tools I was aware of were agree and amplify and act indifferent. Okay, both those tools, like if you just had to pick two, those are great ones. But another one is amused mastery, and Justin Waller could have absolutely used amused mastery in this situation, right? And amused mastery, it's kind of like the arrogance and, where you just sort of like smirk at like her commentary and stuff like that. And it's like you've seen it all before, right? Like old guys can do this really well, right? Because they probably have seen it all before, right? But if you just sit there and just smirk at her, right? And when she's all going off about all this stuff and he just sits there and goes, you're just so cute that you think all that. Right? It just disregards everything she says, right? Or he says something like, Lila, you're scoffing at all this stuff right now, but you would make an excellent side chick. Right? It's just, you're so cute right now. That sort of thing would have probably diffused the situation a little bit better. They would have known that that she wasn't under his skin at that point. right? He would have been non-reactive. He would have still been in his frame if he did something like that, right? That probably would have gone viral too if he said some shit like that to a conservative chick. Oh, yes. If you're indifferent, you have amused mastery. Anything outside your frame is amusing or interesting. Yep. Yeah, and I've learned that from Ryan as well, right? And he got that from another red pillar. Who was it? Was it Whisper? Was it Whisper that said that? Anything outside your frame is amusing or interesting. But yeah, if you think of it that way, right? Anything outside of your belief system, anything outside of who you are, it's amusing, right? Or interesting. It's a good way of looking at that kind of stuff. All right, guys. So now you have some ideas. All right. Go out there and practice this stuff, right? Even when you're interacting with other dudes, when other dudes are busting on you and talking smack or whatever, use these same tools. These work in any situation, right? Your boss is being a dick to you. Use some of these tools, right? Fogging, negative assertion, that kind of stuff is really good because it's not disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like you could use those tools in a work situation where you're actually dealing with someone who's, higher up than you that can fire you if they want. Agree and amplify, that sort of thing might not go over well if your boss is a dick, right? But fogging, negative assertion, all that kind of stuff, that works in all situations. All right, guys. So in conclusion, you never want women or men really to see you sweat. All right. Learning these techniques will actually help you be more focused on the technique itself, as opposed to having your monkey brain default to your flight or fight or flight response, right? A lot of times when someone's arguing with us or, hitting us with shit tests or whatever, we get into our feels because of our fight or flight response. Like we sort of just like react to the situation emotionally, right? That's our natural response. But if you're aware of it and you're aware of these tools, instead of doing that, you might think about it first and be like, you get ready. Like you start feeling the blood rush to your head because you're pissed. Just take a deep breath and then think about one of these tools. Think about how you can implement one of these tools, and that will help you be less reactive to the situation, right? The more aware you are, the more in control of your emotions you will be, okay? And then the more in control of the emotions you are, the more respect you will have for both men and women when they know that they can't get you up in your feels, all right? It works for both men and women. All right. That's why you want to be unshakable, right? That gives you that someone who's like really has good control of their emotional response is really seen as having a dominant masculine presence. Speaking of which, check out Thor's book when it drops. He talks a lot about this stuff, right? He talks a lot about this stuff. He talks about like in this space, we talk about like alphas and betas all the damn time, right? But it doesn't really do justice to what it is that makes you a masculine, attractive person, right? Because you could have beta traits and still be attractive to women, because hypergamy is dualistic, right? But if you practice having a dominant masculine presence, you can show your beta side a little bit. You can show your alpha side, and women will still find you super attractive because it's that dominant masculine presence that is what really makes you attractive, right? Highly recommend his book. I think that drops in a couple weeks, so be on the lookout for that. All right, guys, that's all I have for this episode. Be sure to tune in Friday. We're going to talk a little bit more about this stuff, right? We're going to talk a little bit more about when I say no, I feel guilty, because we're going to be going through the assertive Bill of Rights from that book, right? This is required red pill stuff, guys. So be sure to tune in if you're not familiar with it. Other than that, be sure to like, subscribe, hit those notifications. Thank you for everyone that sounded off in the live chat today. If you guys are watching the replay, drop a comment below. And if you are listening to the replay on your favorite audio platform, give us a 5-star review. That helps more than you know. Follow me on social media. The links are in the description. Thanks to everybody that sent super chats today. That really helps out the show. That supports the show probably more than anything else. Get on the email list, list.comeonmanpod.com. I'll send you stickers for your troubles. And then if you like those stickers, they're available on mugs and hats and t-shirts and all that fun stuff at merch.comeonmanpod.com. And then check out my Practical Law of Attraction course. You know, a lot of this type of stuff is mindset, right? And this course is all about mindset, how to reprogram your subconscious mind. So if you're struggling with this type of stuff, you want to get your mind right, check out the course, loa.comeonmanpod.com. Links in the description for that. And then finally, get on the Patreon, patreon.com/comeonmanpod. I'm going to start hosting monthly happy hour hangouts for Patreon members. Join for as low as $10, support the show, and then come hang out with me once a month. You know, we'll have some beers, you know, energy drinks, whatever. Smoke cigars. I don't smoke, but you can because it's virtual. So I don't care what you do in your house. And then we'll talk about man shit. You know what I mean? It's a good place for guys to get together and talk about man stuff. You know, keep the women out of it. It's good for guys to get together. It really helps us out mentally. So that being said, I think that's all I got. We will see you guys on Friday.
This has been the Come On Man podcast. Now, go out and get it.